At this point, we're going to start programming some smart contracts. We're going to be using Solidity, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a smart contract to create NFTs. This is the part where we're moving away from Three.js and we're actually going to code a smart contract to create NFTs. We're going to need these NFTs to be linked to the metaverse that we're going to use. What this is going to let us do is create tokens that represent objects that people can use within our metaverse. In this section, what we're going to do is we're going to create the smart contract that enables us to generate these tokens that are going to let us link these NFTs to the metaverse we're creating. So let's take a moment to step away from Three.js and away from our Visual Studio, and we're actually going to move into coding some smart contracts. These smart contracts will be developed in Solidity, and it'll let us link the metaverse with the blockchain. So to do that, we're going to go to Remix. You can go to remix.ethereum.org, and I've listed it to you in the Resources tab. Once we're there, we're going to go to the folder called Contracts, and we're going to create a new file. And we're going to call that file metaverse.sol because we're writing in Solidity. Now we've got a blank file called metaverse.sol. To get started in a Solidity smart contract, we need to first define the license. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to start here. It's going to be, we're going to open it up, SPDX, and then we define it's going to be license, identifier, and then the license that we're going to use is MIT's license. There are other licenses, but I feel very comfortable working with this one, and that's the one I'm going to use in this example. Now that we've defined that, we need to start coding the smart contract. So let's put our first lines. So every time we need to work in a smart contract, we need to define which compiler we're going to use. We do that by setting it as Pragma, and now we define what version, Solidity, and the version needs to be higher than version 0.8.0. So we need to establish that because when we go to the compiler needs to be higher than 0.8.0, not lower than that. So we've established that. Now what we need to do is we need to import some smart contracts from an outside location, in this case, OpenZeppelin. So I'm going to leave now commenting that we're going to import smart contracts from OpenZeppelin. OpenZeppelin has an extensive library of secure smart contracts, which we're going to use inside this project. Among them, the ERC721, which is the most common used NFT type token, and it's what we're going to use in this contract. So if we go to the GitHub for OpenZeppelin, you'll be able to find the folder for contracts, and inside you'll find token. Here are the tokens, and we're looking at ERC721. Now we need to make reference to this file from inside our smart contract. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the Remix, and we're going to add the following line of code, import, and now we're going to define the path is at OpenZeppelin/contracts. And now I'm going to define the version of OpenZeppelin that we will be using, just in case it changes in the future. We're going to establish it as 4.4.2. That way it will always be this code that we're referencing. Then we go to token/ERC721/ and the contract we're going to use is ERC721.sol. If we go over to our GitHub, this contract is this one here. Let's look inside. So notice the path, OpenZeppelin.contracts, the same path that we're actually making reference here. Okay, now we're going to need also some additional smart contracts. So let me copy and repeat this. And I'm going to replace this with a contract for access. This will let me control who owns these NFTs. So that way I don't have to do it manually. So I just do it here. It's going to be called ownable. Okay, so the ownable contract is going to let me do that. And finally, I'm going to need a utility. This is found within the utils folder, and it's what's going to let me set a counter to be able to control how many NFT tokens are actually created inside the metaverse we're creating. All of these smart contracts that we're importing, they're found inside the GitHub for OpenZeppelin. You'll see here the folder contracts, here's access, and here's the ownable smart contract Solidity that we used. And if we actually want to look at the counter, we can actually look also inside the contracts. There's the folder called utils, and you'll be able to find here the counters.sol smart contract that we're importing into our smart contract. Now we're going to move on to the creation of the smart contract for creating the NFTs. So let me label it here, the creation of the metaverse smart contract with NFT tokens. I have to first leave my comments so I know exactly what I'm doing. And let's define it. Let's call this contract called Metaverse. And I'm going to define an inheritance from the ERC721 and the ownable smart contract. That way I can use the functions from those smart contracts as well. If at this moment I try to compile this, it won't work. The reason is because I haven't defined anything inside this smart contract. But don't worry, we will be defining everything that's needed inside the smart contract in our following lesson.